So I tried to include a footnote regardless of how significant or insignificant that information seemed, because if you go through and you try to research the Alabama Public Service Commission, which is what we will mostly be talking about, you'll find out that it's very hard to find any information whatsoever. And that's pretty much the whole central issue, which again we'll get into like deeper into the presentation. Is it's just so hard to find information about them, and so that's why the footnotes are so extensive. And this isn't even all of my research because I lost a lot of my tabs, because it's just, once you fall down that Google rabbit hole, sometimes it's hard to find certain pieces of information that you know exist. But with that said, let's go ahead and get started. So this is our artwork by Darius. I absolutely love it. It's so creepy. Like it completely captures the whole, I don't know, just like atmosphere of the topic. And so this is Coal Puppets, the Alabama Coal Conspiracy and what future voters need to know. So before we really get started, I want to make a disclaimer because defamation is a thing and I don't want to be sued. So none of the claims in this presentation are stated to be true or untrue. I am simply exercising my First Amendment right to freedom of speech and supporting my opinions with evidence. If lobbying is not money laundering, then this is not slander. All right, so there is the source sheet again. All right, so what is the Alabama Public Service Commission? In simple words, the PSC is a committee of 3 people who are in charge of supervising and regulating public utilities. States typically regulate public utilities through public utility commissions. According to their website, their mission is to ensure a regulatory balance between regulated companies and consumers in order to provide consumers with safe, adequate, and reliable services at rates that are equitable and economical. Now remember that part, equitable and economical. It will be relevant throughout the entire presentation. So how does the PSC work? There is a president and 2 associate commissioners. The president of the PSC is elected every 4 years and and their election concurs with presidential election years, so like 2020, 2024, 2028, etc. It occurs on the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November. So, in 2024, we'll all be able to vote. So if you are still an Alabama resident, remember to go vote because, as you'll learn later, this is a very important but forgotten about position. And then the 2 associate commissioners are elected every 4 years during congressional midterm elections. So in 2022, remember to go vote for your associate commissioners of the PSC. The PSC has to meet at least once a month and shall hold additional meetings when necessary to do their jobs, according to the Alabama Code. So basically, every time a utility company wants to increase their rates or impose restrictions on something, they have to propose what they want to do to the PSC, and then the PSC has to vote on if the utility company is allowed to do that. So the PSC sets Alabama Power's rates through a process called stabilization and equalization, rather than hosting formal hearings, like where the public can go and contest the rates, like if they're increased and we're like, why are we paying all of this money? There's no public, like formal public hearings for us to be able to contest that. So here is the current president, Twinkle Kavanaugh, and this is Associate Commissioner number 1, Jeremy H. Oden, and this is current Associate Commissioner number 2, Terry Dunn. So if you'll notice, Jeremy H. Oden, his first year was in 2012, which was a presidential election year, not a congressional midterm election year. And this is because he was appointed by the governor instead of being elected, because I don't know what happened to the original associate commissioner number one. These people do tend to be older, so it's possible, health issues or death, just something could happen. So, and then he was elected into the position in 2014. So that's why his years are wonky. And then Terry Dunn, he replaced, oh, wait, I did that back. Okay, so this is Terry Dunn. He was replaced by Chip Beaker. Chip Beaker is the current associate commissioner number two. And there is a whole conspiracy surrounding Terry Dunn's replacement with Chip Beaker, which we will get to after this part. So on August 13th in 2013, the PSC voted 2-1 to base Alabama Power's rates on weighted cost of equity rather than return on equity. There are a lot of really detailed and confusing statistics out there that I opted to leave out of this presentation because I quite frankly do not completely understand them, and I did not want to present you with information and pretend like I understood it when I do not. It's a whole lot of numbers and percentages, and it basically means that Alabama Power, this is why I included the statistics. I do understand this one. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me slow down. So Twinkle Kavanaugh and Jeremy H. Odin, I spelled that wrong, voted for Alabama Power's rates to, the formula on which those rates are calculated. They voted for it to change to this new formula. And they claimed that it would decrease the cost for Alabamians, but Terry Dunn voted against it. He claimed that there wasn't enough evidence for them to say it would decrease cost, and that it was likely it could even increase the cost. And then in 2015, Terry Dunn was proven right because Alabama Power's rates rose 5%. The typical residential customer saw an increase of $6.78 a month. So due to this decision, Alabama Power has the highest profit rate of any regulated investor-owned electric utility in America. And we will discuss this more later in the presentation. So now let's talk about Terry Dunn. There is a whole website. Actually, I'm getting ahead of myself again. So Terry Dunn is a conservative Republican dude, right? But there was this whole campaign against him, portraying him as, a tree hugger and an extremist environmentalist, and this wackadoo liberal, right? And so I just think it's interesting to look at some of these news articles, because this was one of the ones in response to those articles, and you can clearly tell by the article title that someone in 2013, 2012, around that time, was calling Terry Dunn a tree hugger in order for this title to say that, right? But a lot of those older articles that painted him in that light are gone. They're just gone. They've been buried. So we have to rely on articles like this to show us that those did indeed exist. And so he said he made waves. This is a really good article, just to get a general understanding of it. So I recommend reading it if you're interested by this stuff. And so that is number 10 on the sources list. And now we're gonna watch just a couple of seconds of this whole documentary. So this is the website I was talking about by a Mr. Eddie Curran. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it or not. But he has a website and a YouTube channel, and he made a documentary about Terry Dunn, and just what happened to him, because it's just so I'm bad at English. It's a lot. So we're gonna watch this snippet.
Here are some pictures that were taken. There was a July meeting as you know, with the Public Service Commission, in which I think you've called it a dog and pony show.
Yeah.
And why is that?
Well, just people getting up and telling how great Alabama Power is. Was not in question. We know they're a well-run company. It's just about the rates.
Well, tell me about Alabama Power as far as their service they provide. Like I have a hurricane, tornado went down my street, for example.
Yeah.
About them getting the power back on.
I think they do a great job. I mean, but I just think their profits are too high.
Yeah. So that's your only.
Okay, so you heard that, right? Terry Dunn he's not even against coal or anything. He is doing his job as a commissioner of the Public Service Commission. He is trying to regulate Alabama Power's profit rates in order to better serve the people of Alabama, right? But again, there was a whole smear campaign against him. And if you want to go find some of those different evidence thingies, this is the actual website by that guy who made the documentary. And so this is the about page, but the other page, yeah, this is the interesting page. Like he's just got all of these articles about it. I mean, this whole thing is dedicated to how Terry Dunn was chased out of office. And it's just, I mean, it's a literal conspiracy. It's kind of exciting. And so, yeah, I'm going to move on before I talk us out of time. So now let's explain Alabama Power. There's just some general background information that we need to know about. So the parent company of Alabama Power is the Southern Company. Now, this will be important when we start digging into, money contributions and everything, because some of the connections aren't under Alabama Power, but are under the Southern Company. And it's really interesting the way the Southern Company, wait a second. I feel like I skipped over something. I'm sorry, I'm very tired. Yeah, I didn't read all this off. I just totally skipped over that. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm going too fast. So again, with why the PSC is super sketchy. So Chet Beaker replaced Terry Dunn. Remember that Terry Dunn was the guy who was voting against Alabama Power's basic monopoly over electricity in the state. And so now, every time there's a vote on Alabama Power, the PSC votes 3-0 in favor of Alabama Power's request. For example, on September 1st, 2020, the PSC voted 3-0 to dismiss the Southern Environmental Law Center's challenge to Alabama Power's solar tax. Additionally, the PSC voted 3-0 to allow Alabama Power to raise the solar fee from $5 per kilowatt to $5.41 per kilowatt. Now, the reason this solar tax is so controversial is because while the Alabama Public Service Commission is supporting the solar tax, other states have ruled it unlawful. So let's go visit this document. This is from the Supreme Court of Kansas, in which they ruled that it was unlawful and discriminatory for Kansas Gas and Electric Company and Western Energy Inc. to institute a solar tax because, law, ethics. And so the solar tax, I mean, in addition to just being so controversial and unlawful in other states, it added $25 to a typical 5 kilowatt household's bill under the old rate of $5 and $27.05 under the new rate. And so what this does is it just makes solar power less financially attractive and just less available to people, And then on June 9th in 2020, the PSC voted 3-0 to approve almost all of Alabama Power's $1.1 billion expansion proposal into natural gas, except for the solar and battery storage projects included in the original proposal. So this this is interesting because it shows Alabama Power was trying to venture into solar panels and stuff. And the PSC voted them down. Like they said yes to the natural gas and no to the solar power. And so what I personally interpreted this as is Alabama wanted the solar tax in order to prevent that market from flourishing without them. That way that when it did come to Alabama, they could just take hold of it and like pretty much own the whole thing. But the Alabama Public Service Commission doesn't want anything to do with solar because a lot of their campaign contributions come from the coal industry, and the coal industry would probably be super pissed. And so yeah, that's just my take on it. Yes, okay. So now let's talk about Drummond Company. Here is the homepage of their website. Nothing too controversial going on here. I just thought you might like to see it. Instead of looking at, just words on a slide 24/7. So basically, Drummond is a private coal company based in Birmingham, Alabama. The CEO of Drummond Company, Gary Drummond, was the richest man in Alabama before his death in 2016. So they have lots of money. Drummond opened the largest coal mine in Alabama, Shoal Creek Mine, in 1994. Now, Shoal Creek's coal is processed on site and delivered under long-term contract to Alabama Power. So there is a direct connection from Drummond Company to Alabama Power. It's not just that, we need coal for electricity. No, they have a contract. They have a decades-old contract with Alabama Power. And then in 1976, Drummond won a 15-year contract to deliver 2 million tons of coal per year to the Alabama Power Company's coal-fired electrical generation plants. Now this is a very long-term relationship. Like before the thousands, before the 90s, in the 70s. And it gets even more interesting because, this was in 1976. Let's go to 1979. This is an archived article from the New York Times. And it is the first account of scandal I could find involving Drummond Company. So here's the date, November 1st, 1979. And so the title, Legislator and 3 coal officials indicted in Alabama. And then it's just, let me do this. Alabama, former vice president of the Alabama Power Company, the Drummond Coal Company of Jasper, and 3 Drummond officers, Gary Neal Drummond, that the CEO we just talked about, Elbert A. Drummond, and Clyde Clifton Black. And so yeah, it's just, I think it's very interesting. They have a history of scandal going back to 1979. At least, that's the earliest I could find. It's possible they could have had one in 1976 and it got covered up. And so now let's just look at some of their more recent scandals. Bribery indictment focuses attention on Drummond Company. A few of the articles we're about to look at are about this same incident. And I just think it's really interesting. It's a lot. So again, I really recommend, if this interests you, going and just reading through some of these articles on the source list, because it's a ride. Oh, that's the same one. My bad. Yes. And then I think this one was a little bit after the other one, but it's about the same thing. So it's just confirming that they did, face jail time for that, which I personally think is good. this one's title is very obviously biased, but I just want to include it anyway because it had some more information. So this one shows us some insight into Drummond Company's, let's say, I'll call it a relationship. It's not a relationship, but that's what I'm gonna call it. Just relationship with environmental racism. So they own the ABC Coke plant in Tarrant, and the ABC Coke plant has been in the news for the past couple of years for releasing like a whole lot of benzene into streams, and it's causing severe health issues for the people who live in Tarrant. And so yeah, that's some more stuff to dig into. And one of these other articles is dated from just a few days ago. And it's kind of happy because the Southern Alabama Law Center, Southern Environmental Law Center, they actually won that case against Drummond for releasing toxic amounts of benzene. There it is. And so yeah, that's some happy news. I'm sorry, my voice is going out. I have issues. All right, now, what is the connection between Alabama Power, Drummond Company, and this law firm, Maynard, Cooper, and Gale? I have no idea if that's how you pronounce Maynard or Maynard. We're just gonna roll with it. So remember this is a law firm, right? Their client list includes Drummond Company, Regions Bank, and the Southern Natural Gas Company, whose parent company is the Southern Company. Now, Regions Bank is included here because, as we will dig into later, one of the board of directors for Alabama Power is the former CEO, president dude of Regions Bank. And he's only former because he's retired from that. And so yeah. And then additionally, Anthony A. Joseph is both a shareholder in Maynard, Cooper, and Gale and a member of Alabama Power's board of directors. Now, Alabama Power's board of directors has literally infiltrated everything. So let's go look at some of this. The Business Council of Alabama, or the BCA, they have so many people on that, and as you'll see later, the BCA contributes a lot of money to the PSC and their campaign funding. And so Mark A. Crosswhite, I think that is a very important name, and we should all try to remember it. He is the chairman, president, and CEO of Alabama Power. In addition to this, he is on the executive committee of the BCA and on the board of directors of the BCA. Angus R. Cooper III, a member of the board of directors of Alabama Power, is also the second vice chairman of the BCA, as well as on the board of directors. And then they also have 3 other members or employees of Alabama Power on the board of directors of the BCA. And then in addition to Alabama Power's connections, direct connections to the BCA, there's also Richard Mullen, who is the CEO of Drummond Company, the current CEO, not the dead one, and Gregory S. Curran, who is the chairman of Maynard, Cooper, and Gale. Now, other company connections. Philip M. Webb, a member of the board of directors of Alabama Power, is also the finance chairman of the Alabama Republican Party. And as you will see later, the Alabama Republican Party donated a lot of money to Twinkle Kavanaugh. And so just the fact that he is the finance chairman, and so Drummond has major influence over the Alabama Coal Association. because they are the richest, most quote successful, I guess you could say, of these companies. And as you'll see, a lot of the Alabama Coal Association's members are going to pop up on the funding sheets that I created. And so it's very interesting. The coal industry wants its coal. I mean, that's for sure. And then also on the funding sheets, you'll see the Alabama Coal Cooperative, which is separate from the Alabama Coal Association. And you'll see the name Randy C. Johnson. He is included because he is the president of the Alabama Coal Cooperative, but he makes donations for the coal cooperative and as an individual. So he's included because he is the president, and so he has direct interest. Now, the Fine Getty and Associates law firm, they are, I mean, they're on something. I mean, there's no other way to put it. So they are lobbyists. They're a lobbyist firm. They are on this list of registered lobbyists from the state Alabama Ethics Commission in 2010. So we're gonna say, if I can move this little thingy. So fine. Yes. And so here they are, on the registered lobbyist list, and right down here is Alabama Power, right? And so yeah, I thought you might like to see that, and I also think Drummond Company is on here, but they may not be. Yeah, no, they're not on here. But Regions Financial Corporation is, and as I mentioned earlier, one of the board of directors is the former CEO, president dude of Regions. And so yeah, it's just they got some connections. And this Fine Getty and Associates firm is a huge force for PACs. We're going to learn about PACs in the next coming slides. And basically, they are just funneling all kinds of money into these politicians. Did I go over everything? Yeah, okay. So before we go too far, let's define lobbying and PACs. Lobbying is the act of trying to influence a politician or public official on an issue. It's not money laundering, but it is totally money laundering and bribery. But it's legal because somehow the First Amendment right covers bribery as long as you call it lobbying, because of a court case we're going to talk about later. It's kind of confusing, but yes, so this is a good website to read if you want to know more about that. And so what is a PAC, right? I was going through these funding sheets and everything, and I was like, what does PAC mean? What is this, right? I had never heard of that before. So a PAC is a political action committee, and political action committees are political committees established and administered by corporations, labor unions, membership organizations, or trade associations. The general definition is a group that spends money on elections but is not run by a party or individual candidate. However, PACs can donate money to parties or candidates they support. So basically, a bunch of people with shared interest come together and say, we want to donate money to this person. And so that removes the bribery aspect, sort of, at least legally for some reason, because they're doing it as a group. So yeah. So here is the court case I was talking about. This is the reason why super PACs, so just a PAC with monumental influence. Like we're talking about hundreds of thousands to millions to billions of dollars, just depending on which candidate and which issue. And these super PACs weren't always an issue. They haven't always existed. The reason, sorry, the phone is ringing. The reason these super PACs are able to exist is because of the Supreme Court's decision in Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission. They made their decision on January 21st, 2010. So it is a little past the 11-year anniversary date of this decision. And so basically what this case was a conservative nonprofit group called Citizens United challenged campaign finance rules after the FEC stopped it from promoting and airing a film criticizing presidential candidate Hillary Clinton too close to the presidential primaries. And so the Supreme Court ruled a 5-4 majority, siding with Citizens United. And they ruled that corporations and other outside groups can spend unlimited money on elections. Unlimited, like unlimited, y'all. I mean, just. And so the most significant impact on elections from this Supreme Court decision was the creation of super PACs, which skews the election system towards the wealthiest donors because, again, unlimited money, right? And an election system that is skewed heavily towards wealthy donors also sustains racial bias and reinforces the racial wealth gap. So again, just remember that it plays into the future slides. So here's some more on PACs. The acronyms get confusing when you aren't familiar with who is funding them, because it's like, oh, a bunch of acronyms, what does this mean? And so I highlighted and color coded them on the actual funding sheets, but I want to put it together here as like an introduction. And so yeah. Oh, and then Pride Pack 2, this one is really interesting because the rest of these are mostly from Fine Getty and Associates. Remember those lobbyists? They started all of these PACs in order to funnel money to their clients, so that they could get more money, the clients could get more money, so that they could get more money, because that's how it goes. But Pride Pack 2, one of the top contributors includes Angus Capital Corp, right? And Angus Capital Corp, there's not much information on them, but if you Google them, you can't really find what they're about, but you can find that the registered agent on file for this company is Michael W. Sullivan. And Michael Sullivan is also the vice president and chief information officer of the Southern Company, which is the gas subsidiary, of the Southern Company, who owns Alabama Power, right? And so yeah, I thought that was really interesting because part of the super PACs and the issue with the super PACs, it's called dark money, and it comes from these like shadow companies and organizations and stuff that don't really exist but exist on paper, and the reason they exist on paper is so larger corporations can donate money to political candidates through them. And so if you Google Angus Capital Corp, you will not find much. And I found that very interesting. I'm not gonna allude to too much, but it's very interesting. So now we get to the beef, right? Who funds Twinkle Kavanaugh? Remember she's the president of the PSC. Here I've highlighted which specific PACs are recorded to be funded by which company. So I'm mainly focusing on Alabama Power and Drummond because they are just the absolute biggest players in the field. Like if you see right here, when you combine Alabama Power and Drummond Company's total contributions of here, let me slow down again. So what I've compiled here, this is not the complete donation sheet. If you want that, you can go and look at the source sheet and then click top donors, and that's where you can find that. But I went through and I tried to find the ones that I knew had a for sure direct relationship, or like had a connection to coal or fossil fuels or Alabama Power. And so this is not a definitively comprehensive list. This is just the ones that I for sure, without a doubt, knew, right, about coal. And so from what I compiled, Alabama Power and Drummond Company's combined donations is $813,000, and I cannot speak. I'm sorry. Anyways, 800 and something $1,000, and the total from fossil fuel interest that I was able to, definitively say was $898,876. So the bulk of these donations from the fossil fuel industry came from Alabama Power and Drummond Company. And so that's just, that's huge, and so, yeah, I'm losing my second wind. I need to take a second.
You're doing great, Mandy.
Thank you. I had to go to the hospital today. I don't like hospitals. All right, so who funds Jeremy H. Oden? If you'll remember, he is the Associate Commissioner, place 1. And, again, if you want to see the total funding sheet, click on the source sheet and then click top donors, and there's the whole thing. And again, not a comprehensive list. Now, the most important thing about Jeremy Oden's list is this bright yellow section right here. He has a direct donation from Alabama Power Company. And we're going to dig into the Code of Alabama in a few slides, and I want you to remember that, because that is very important. And so, yeah, once again, we can see the majority of fossil fuel contributions, again, limited by what I was able to definitively say, 719,000 something versus 742,000 something, right? So again, the vast majority is coming from Alabama Power and Drummond Company. And now Chip Beaker. Again, if you want to see his whole sheet, you click on that, and then top donors. And so Chip Beaker is interesting because he does not have nearly as much total funding as Twinkle and Jeremy, because he was the replacement for Terry Dunn, and I think maybe some sort of I think they were apprehensive, because they were like, the last dude we had in here, he wouldn't listen to us, right? He just wanted to do the right thing, and so yeah, I think he was like a trial run, and that's why he doesn't have as much funding. But again, I'm not an expert. I'm not exactly a credible source. So take that with a grain of salt. And something interesting about Terry Dunn is his total campaign contributions. Like, he only received $10,000 from the Alabama Rural Electrification PAC, and I did not include that on the slides. I should have. I was going to, but I forgot to, because again, I got lost in like millions of tabs. But if you go to this same website, followthemoney.org, and type in Terry Dunn, you can find that information. And then he got $3,000 $3,000 other dollars from himself, because he just had money. And so yeah, that's just, it's an interesting comparison because $13,000 versus this isn't even the total of their campaigns, right? This is just from the fossil fuel industry. And so yeah, I think that's a very interesting comparison. So if you'll remember with Jeremy Oden, this bright yellow section, Alabama Power Company, $12,000. According to the Code of Alabama, section 37-1-7, the commissioner may be impeached and removed from office by the Supreme Court for the same causes and in the same manner as other state officers, and any commissioner who shall accept directly or indirectly any gift, gratuity, emolument, or employment from any person, firm, corporation, company, or association owning or operating in whole or in part in this state a utility as defined in this title during his continuance in office, blah, blah, shall forfeit his office and may be impeached and removed from office, therefore. So this is where I'm like drafting something to send to the Southern Environmental Law Center because how does lobbying fit into this section of the Code of Alabama? Because you cannot sit here and tell me that all of these funding like contributions and everything to their campaigns does not qualify as a direct or indirect gift, because it is. It's regardless of if you call it lobbying. I mean, lobbying, you know, if a lobbyist gives you money, they still gave you a gift, right? And so that directly or indirectly, is it or is it not indirect for Mark A. Crosswhite, CEO, President, and Chairman of Alabama Power Company, to sit on the Business Council of Alabama and like, you know, along with his other members of Alabama Power and donate money. See, let's go back to Twinkle Kavanaugh and donate money. See right here, they were her top contributor aside from herself. $206,000, right? I mean, how is that not an indirect gift? I mean, all of these highlighted things, like Alabama Power is a utility. Drummond Company is not a utility. They supply a utility. So I can see how Drummond Company could fund them. But Alabama Power is a utility. And again, that Alabama Republican Party, on the board of directors of Alabama Power is Mr. Philip Webb, right? Who is also the finance chairman of the Alabama Republican Party. How is she able to receive an indirect gift from Alabama Power just because it's called the Alabama Republican Party if he sits on both organizations? Doesn't make sense to me. And so yeah, and then Jeremy Oden, he is the most obvious target. Like, he received a direct gift from Alabama Power Company, a direct gift, not even under, you know, some weird pack name, like just from them. Like, and so let's go look at the definition of a utility as defined by the Code of Alabama. So and let me catch my breath. I got a little. I forget to breathe when I'm excited. Okay. So, what is a utility according to the Code of Alabama? Such term shall mean and include every person that now or may hereafter own, operate, lease, or control. Okay, you see that? Own, operate, lease, or control. What does a CEO, president, chairman do, right? What do shareholders, you know, board of directors do, right? So part A, any plant, property, or facility for the generation, transmission, or distribution, sale, or furnishing to or for the public of electricity for light, heat, or power, or other uses, blah, 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 right? So there we have it. You know, an electricity utility, right? And then part B, any plant, property, or facility for the manufacture, storage, distribution, sale, or furnishing to or for the public of natural or manufactured gas for light, heat, or power, or other uses. Well, didn't the PSC just vote to allow Alabama Power to expand a $1.1 billion plan into natural gas? What do y'all think? I think this is some pretty serious stuff.
You should look at the chat because people have been talking in the chat the whole time.
Y'all have?
Mostly me, but you know.
Yeah, I know you can't see it and that kind of sucks, but people have been like reacting like in time to you presenting cuz like it's all very overwhelming and like just kind of how much a lot of these things are connected to each other.
So, but, like, this is exciting, right?
To me, it's also kind of sad because a lot of what these companies are doing is leading to like negative impacts of the like poorer people. But I mean, Alabama is mostly poorer people anyway, yet they still support these people. It's like they don't have the intelligence to see what's like right in front of them.
Yes, it is absolutely. I don't know why I'm smiling to say that it is sad. It's just it's like vindication. Like when you know something is like screwed up, and you find so much evidence to prove it. I don't know. It's very affirming. It's like I knew it. Um, and so, I don't know. This is why I'm going to law school. This is just there's just so much here to argue. Um, and so, um, uh, Jalen led us into the next segment of the presentation, the PSC's connections to racism, right? So if you'll remember earlier, Drummond Company has like faced lawsuits in very recent times. Just lost their lawsuit um, from the Southern Environmental Law Center and GASP for their environmental racism with the benzene leak, right? Um, and so just remembering Drummond Company, right? So Twinkle Kavanaugh, president of the PSC, confirmed in an interview that Randy Henneman, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, is her campaign's general consultant. This was from her 2018 run for lieutenant governor. She lost to Will Ainsworth, I think, or Luther Strange. Whoever is lieutenant governor. See, I should know this because here I am preaching about elections. I get confused. There's just so many names. But yes, she lost. But her, oh yeah, off topic. Let me compose myself. Okay. So Randy Henneman. So remember how super PACs and wealthy donors uphold systemic racism. Well, let's go look at this document. The Alabama Legislative Black Caucus versus Alabama. So if you want to go read this document, if you go to the Wikipedia page, they actually have links to where you can listen to it, like the actual trial. Like, again, that's just so exciting. Like, okay, calm down. So you can read the full document from the trial. And so yeah, that's in the source sheet. So what is this case? So in which the Alabama Legislative Black Caucus and the Alabama Democratic Conference challenged the 2012 redrawing of Alabama's electoral districts on the basis of it being illegal racial gerrymandering. So in 2012.
Can I interject for a second? I think the meeting, if this is like the other meetings, is about to end. So Mandy, you might want to find a stopping point and then everyone just rejoin using the same link that they got here with the first time and we'll continue.
This one, I used my school account instead of the sustainability Zoom account, the sustainability club Zoom account, because you know the Zoom lifted the meeting restrictions for school accounts. And the reason I used the sustainability club one instead of my school one for regular meetings is because I want to give people that option of not having to listen to me drag on for like an hour and a half instead of like a normal 40-minute meeting. But I didn't want to give people that optional out today because I think this is really important. Um, Regardless of how off topic I get and how many composures I have to take. Um, and so yeah, I didn't want people to be able to leave so easily because
Then ignore everything I just said.
and so yeah. So in 2012, there was this team that was put together to redraw Alabama's electoral districts, right? And then the Alabama Legislative Black Caucus and the Alabama Democratic Conference. It says challenged here, but we're gonna call that sued. I don't know if you can actually. I don't know if that's the technical term you can use. If there's like certain semantics associated with that, but basically sued the state of Alabama for gerrymandering, right? And so the Alabama Federal District Court ruled that even if it was wrong and race was the predominant factor for the redistricting, the district should still remain as redrawn because the act creating them was narrowly tailored to achieve the compelling state interest of avoiding racial retrogression, which would prevent minority voters from electing their candidate of choice. Now, what kind of backwards logic were they using? Like, does that sentence sound just so contradictory to anybody else? I mean, like, what's going on there? Okay, I'm just gonna keep talking. So that is what the Alabama Federal District Court said. But then the Alabama Legislative Black Caucus and the Alabama Democratic Conference appealed the district court's ruling, and it got taken to the U.S. Supreme Court. And so the U.S. Supreme Court ruled 5-4 to overturn the district court's decision and stated that racial gerrymandering claims must be considered district by district rather than by looking at the state as a whole. And looking at the state as a whole is what the district court's main argument was. And so yeah, why does all of this matter? Well, if you go and you look at the document, you're gonna find Randy Hinneman's name because he got called to like be up on the stand and answer questions and stuff. He got like subpoenaed and everything because he was on the team that redrew Alabama's electoral districts, the same team that like gerrymandered Alabama and then got called out for it. And so Twinkle Kavanaugh has to be aware of this. And if she's not, that means she's bad at like researching people. But I'm pretty sure she would be aware of it because like that went to the U.S. Supreme Court. That's a big deal, right? And so she's either extremely bad at just general back checks on people, or she is complicit with this systemically like not even just racist no like he committed an act of systemic race. I don't know if that's like a verb or anything, but like he committed an act of system like that's worse than just like oh my goodness. Do y'all get what I'm saying? I mean, like this is a bad dude. And so yeah, that is her campaign's general consultant. And we're nearing the end now. And there are no more words in this presentation, like on the slides, because I don't want to be sued for defamation or slander. So I'm just going to tell you this. This is Alabama's poverty rates and everything for 2020. It was the fifth poorest state in the country, while having I believe the third highest power electricity bill things. Which ding ding ding, issue here, right? And so let's go look at this one. Alabama crap. Ignore that one. That's not official. We're not gonna read that. I was just ranting. So this section of Alabama right here, is their power is supplied by the TVA. The TVA is not Alabama Power, right? So looking along this line of counties, right? So this is supplied by the TVA. Well, let's come right over here, right? What is this line? Oh, sorry, let me say what this one is. It doesn't state it. So this blue Alabama map right here, this is the population of African Americans in each county of Alabama from 2000, right? I could not find a good one from like 2020. So we're using the one from 2000. And so yes, you can clearly see that this a lot of white people live here, right? This there's a lot of white people here, right? And the TVA does not charge nearly as much as Alabama Power. And I think this is very interesting, and I'm not going to incriminate myself, but I mean, I see something. I don't know if y'all see something, but I see something. This is Alabama Power's um like this is what they own pretty much. This is their territory. Uh so yeah, it seems like exploitation to me, but that's just my opinion under my First Amendment rights. And so yeah, that's the end.
Yeah, it's a little much for me to process, to be honest with you, but I can definitely see how, like, the correlation between the activities of the Alabama Power Company and like the prices of electricity and like I don't know, like it all makes sense. It's just a little much for me personally to process.
There's a lot going on here. Let me ask y'all something. Before coming to this meeting, had you ever heard of the Alabama Public Service Commission?
Nope.
Kind of, because when I voted last year, it was on there, but no, not really.
I had like heard the name, but I did not know what they did.
The same. I know they exist, but like, I don't know.
I just assumed they did like public service teams. You know, I didn't know they were like this involved in like when you think of public service, you usually don't like think of like you think of like I mean I guess you think of taking care of the environment and but like in a very like 1970s like hippy dippy kind of way. You don't really think about it as like securing budgets or redefining district slash county, not county, you know what I mean, gerrymandering, redlining, all that stuff. You don't really think about it in that sort of way. You just kind of think about it as like, oh, they're, making people happy or whatever they're supposed to be doing. But they're not really. They're kind of just they're not really public servants. Not for real. They seem more interested in serving the interest of the Alabamian government and like the Alabamian corporations and super PACs than, but like under the guise of serving the public. Yeah.
They want that money. Um, does anybody have like anything specific they want to revisit or talk more about? I can go back through the slideshow if you want to like pay more attention to any certain like topics or details.
So the board,
No, you meant-
the oh wait, okay. Whoever was talking go because I just went.
Oh, mine wasn't really a question about like what was the content. It was I know you mentioned something about how you wanted to take this to the Southern Environmental Law. Something. You said something about that, so I was wondering like, what are your next steps? Because I'm very interested in like how you can do.
Oh wow. I'm very glad you asked me that. But everybody else might not be because I could talk about this for like ever. So let's go back to the Alabama, the Code of Alabama. I just want to present them with this, and this and these, in a formal manner. And then, what's really interesting is in 2016, the Democratic candidate opposing Twinkle Kavanaugh for president of the PSC, Laura Casey, she sued the Public Service Commission because during one of their so it's hard to explain. So during one of their meetings, she was recording it on her phone because under the Code of Alabama, I think it's in section 34. I don't know because that wasn't my legal case against them. That was like hers. But they kicked her out. They're like, no, you cannot record it here. But according to the Code of Alabama, under the I think it was like open acts or the Code of Alabama clearly stated that that citizens had a right to attend the meetings and record as long as they did not cause a scene or like distract and stuff. And they told her she had to leave, and they took her phone away, and they said you can only come back if you promise to stop recording. And so she sued them over that because she's like, this is against the law. And what the Alabama Supreme Court ruled. Okay, here I didn't finish this slide, but we're gonna visit it. I originally planned to include Laura Casey in the slideshow, but I didn't because that would have been like a 2-hour presentation, and it's already nearing an hour and a half. And I didn't want to keep y'all here forever. But the Alabama Supreme Court, if you go to followthemoney.org, the same place I found the funding information for the PSC members, every single member of the Alabama Supreme Court is funded by those same Drummond Company and Alabama Power and just coal-funded PACs, and receiving hundreds of thousands of dollars from them. And so the Alabama Supreme Court, they ruled against Casey in favor of the PSC, saying, no, that wasn't a meeting by the definition of the word because, there wasn't certain things that needed to be for it to be called a meeting. But other like lawyers and stuff from other states, it was like a whole big deal because those lawyers were like, what? That's ridiculous. And every single one of these people, except for Alyssa Kelly Wise, voted against Casey, right? And Alyssa Kelly Wise recused herself. And you recuse yourself as a judge when you have a conflict of interest, right? And see, I don't have any of the sources for this information on the slide, which is why I wasn't gonna go over it. But if you Google it, it is there. I'll probably put together another slideshow eventually and like post it to the website just so people can look at it. And I'm probably, once I get my voice like under control, and like to where it doesn't go in and out, then I'm probably gonna make like a YouTube video of this presentation, and I'll probably add the Laura Casey stuff onto it just so that people can go and watch that. Because why not? People deserve to know the truth. Oh, that's right. I was gonna tell y'all. That documentary on YouTube, Let's see, where did it go? Mr. Dunn. There it is. Okay. So this was a 4-part documentary, right? But if this will ever load. But if we go to Mr. Eddie Curran's YouTube channel, there's only 2 of them. And if you go onto the website and try to click on parts 3 and 4 of this documentary, YouTube will pull it up and say that it was removed for violating YouTube's like rules, or however they say that, like violating their rules. And again, I think that's so interesting that all of this stuff, gets taken down and removed, because it's just like it's being covered up. And so yes, there's just so much here. And so yeah, the Alabama Supreme Court is also part of the Cole conspiracy, but I could not get to them. And so this makes it really hard to challenge the Public Service Commission in any legal standing, because pretty much every elected official is receiving lots and lots of money from the coal industry. And I mean, it's just, this is Alabama. This is what we're working with. And I mean, yes, okay, I'm gonna stop. Honestly, there's so much, like there's a lot in this presentation, but there's so much that's not in this presentation. Like I have, oh goodness, I'm gonna have to like create a comprehensive source sheet. So if anyone wanted to like dig into everything, they could, because I mean it's just so there's so much. There's so much. See, any other questions?
No, I don't think so.
I don't have any.
Well then, I guess like if you want to like leave and stuff, you can. Thank you for coming. This was my birthday present to myself. Because I did not do any homework this weekend. I just created this presentation. And so yes, you unwittingly came to my birthday party.
You did a great job. I hope you have a happy birthday.
Thank you.
Dissembling patriarchy is my favorite type of party.
Y'all are still here. Oh, I can see the chat now. Yes, we should slander things that deserve it. Unfortunately, then we get sued, and being sued costs money. I would like to use this for Cass, but again, it's very biased. I was trying to not be biased throughout this presentation, and I completely failed. Like, absolute. Oh my god, look like a dork. Okay, like Cindy Lou Who up in here. All right. Um, in creating the presentation, I was definitely biased. Because I didn't look for any of the PSC statements, like like countering the other claims. So I suppose you have a point there. Oh, there's some stuff here about FDR. This was something else I wanted to include in the presentation, but did not. So the Alabama Power Company existed before the TVA. The TVA stands for the Tennessee Valley Association, right? And so in like, I don't know, 19 whatever, FDR was like, enough of these private owned greedy utility companies and everything. We're gonna have the Tennessee Valley Association, right? And the then president of Alabama Power got so pissed at FDR that he ran against him in the presidential election. He lost, but still he ran against him. And I didn't finish reading that article because it seemed like the history of Alabama Power seemed like a much bigger topic to include, and a different presentation, because again, can't keep you here forever, right? And so if you want to Google that, there's actually a book. I can include the book in like on the website, or so, like I'll put the link to the book somewhere. I haven't read the book yet, but like based off what it's about, I'm trying to find a free PDF version because I don't know, it's really interesting. Like, I mean, this is a legitimate conspiracy. I mean, this goes beyond Shane Dawson. I don't even watch Shane Dawson, but like, whatever YouTube conspiracy culture is, it's so exciting. The law is very cool. The law was made for two things: breaking it and changing it, right? And what has the Alabama Power Company and the PSC done? They have broken it, right? And so it is our job to change it so that they get caught for breaking it. But yes, you can leave whenever you want to. I'm not trying to hold you hostage. Yes, Ray.
Mandy, if we haven't left yet, it's probably because we want to be here and hear what you have to say on the issue, so just keep going.
Oh, okay. Well, I can talk about this, like, so I don't want to get too far off into like non-sourced territory. That's why I did the footnotes and everything, because with a lot of articles you'll find that even the ones that are saying like what I'm saying and everything, like, let me use Laura Casey as an example. In her interviews and everything, something that she said a lot was that under Twinkle Kavanaugh, the Alabama, like the power rates for people who are under Alabama Power's jurisdiction have gone up a net rate of 20%. Like, I mean, that's a lot, right? So a 20% net rate increase in power bills during Kavanaugh's PSC presidency, right? But I could not find any official documents. Like I couldn't find where she got that number from, so I wasn't going to include it in the presentation because she was running against Twinkle Kavanaugh. So what if she just like pulled that number? I don't think she did, but like she could have, right? Because I couldn't find where she got that number from because she didn't include it. And she said that in articles, and she also wrote articles talking about the PSC and everything, where she included that statistic, but she didn't she didn't have any footnotes. She didn't have a bibliography. She didn't have any sources, and so I don't know where she got that from. And so I didn't want to do that to y'all too. If you wanted to like dig into it yourself and find more information on it, and the double-edged sword with that is that Laura Casey, she herself is a lawyer, right? So she knows how to go into all of those like super technical official documents about from the PSC, because in section 37 of the Code of Alabama, they are required to have a stenographer record all of the meetings, and they actually have a YouTube. Let me reshare. They have a YouTube channel because since COVID, they have to live stream their meetings because according to the Code of Alabama, they are supposed to be public. Let me see. Let's go here. What was I saying? Oh yes, and so the double-edged sword with that. Let me finish that thought. Is that the PSC? I mean, that was Terry Dunn's whole issue, right? Is make it public, make this information public, right? Like, this is a public service commission. Where is the public? How do we find this information? That's how you know this is dirty, is because it's just so hard to find that information. And so while Laura Casey, being a lawyer, a Juris Doctorate graduate and everything, like, she can go into those, she can read it, she can comprehend it, she can take the numbers out of it and calculate it for herself. But the average person, especially the average person in Alabama who has the worst or one of the worst education rates in the country, they're probably not going to be able to go through those documents. They're probably not even going to know where to look for those documents. And in the whole process of putting this presentation together and just like stumbling onto this, I just found yesterday the spot of where to look for those documents. I haven't even read them to know if I can comprehend them, right? So I just and I have been onto this since like January 7th, okay, like off and on, because it was Nick and I had this environmental science project for Miss Breland, and I don't know, somehow out just Googling about Alabama Power, I was like, what is this, right? And that's a Google rabbit hole ensued. And so yes, the YouTube channel. This is the Alabama Public Service Commission's YouTube. I am subscribed to them. I haven't watched any of the meetings yet because I just found this channel last night, but I will definitely be watching every single one of them from now on. And if you're interested in it, I recommend you to do it as well. And so yes, it's very interesting. I hate it, but I love it, but I love to hate it. So yes. Oh, I have new messages. It's gonna take me forever to read this chat. The Zoom chat mechanism, it was not designed well. It was not designed well at all. It keeps going to the top. I'm trying to go to the bottom. Okay. Yeah, it is definitely not good. And so I just slid the red button on my mom calling me, because I'm at my Nana's old house that she no longer owns because there's internet here and there's not internet at her old house, and we were celebrating, and I wanted to do this presentation, so I was like, I needed internet, and so I should probably call my mom back. So bye. Thank you for coming.